Cursed Trials presented by Team Archon. My name is Frodan. I'm joined by Kibler. We have our fourth match of the winner's bracket for Group A. It's StrifeCro from Cloud9 versus Orange from Team Archon. And it's an interesting match because we have similar lineups, but maybe they choose to build it differently. I'm joined by Crip, who's been casting on the action. How have you been enjoying the tournament so far, man?
You're not joined by Kibler.
Did I say Kibler?
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Looks like these players are playing exactly the same classes here. both Shaman, both Druid, both Rogue. I'm pretty excited to see more of this Rogue deck. The Miracle Rogue, I think from Amnesiac, showed a pretty dominant performance. I think it was the only deck that he won outright with. And yeah, just seemed super solid. I also think there's a lot of stuff that's possible with Rogue. So I think it's good, but not even limited to just Miracle Rogue. So I'm curious to see if StrifeCro or Orange will choose to explore that side of things. So far, very standard stuff from Druid, very standard stuff from Shaman, though. We've seen, I think one of the Druids, I think it was maybe Tice's Druid deck that had the Violet Teacher, or was it? Yeah, I think it was Tice's Druid deck.
Yeah, Violet Teacher into Wild Growth,
yeah,
into Ragnaros. So.
Well, StrifeCro is one of those players that has lived and died by the Violet Teacher. I think he was one of the first players to play the Violet Teacher style token Druid deck like years ago. So I'm kind of curious if he goes back to his roots in this case, because I mean it definitely seemed like a good option from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, StrifeCro was one of the first to really experiment with that, as well as a few other players. I remember it made a debut with like Imp Master and Power of the Wild. Like that was like how it first started, and then people really refined it a little bit more. Nowadays, with things like Living Roots, it feels like it gives you more opportunities for bigger wombo board buildings, right? Like you can have Bio Teacher, Living Roots, Power of the Wild, and all of a sudden it's like a 4/6 with like 5 or 4/1/1s. I don't know the actual thing, but
and we haven't really seen much in terms of board clears. We've seen like 0 Avengers, we've seen like 0 Geddons, we've seen like 0 of like really any kind of board clear. Actually, the only deck that has had a decent board clear is the Aggro Shaman, where some players have chosen to run elemental destruction.
Yeah, we did see a brawl. We did see a brawl.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but that was from the player that went 0/6. So. Not exactly sure. I actually messaged Eloise to see like if she played Dragon Warrior again 3 times and lost, to see if Dragon Warrior went 1-10 collectively. But who knows? Maybe it's variance. Maybe Dragon Warrior is just not good against Druid, and everyone's bringing Druids, so you're bound to have a bad time. Focusing back onto the Rogue, you said there's a lot of different types of Rogue that can originate, and I agree, except for the one caveat that I think because Death Rattles disappear from the metagame, the Unearthed Raptor Rogues still don't have a chance right now. I think you lose some of your best that you can copy off of.
Yeah.
You lose the eggs, you lose the Haunted Creepers, you lose a lot of like the powerful stuff early on that gives you insurance on the egg. Ideally, you would use it on like Sylvanas, or if you're playing like super late game stuff, you can get away with it. But even Belcher and Shredder, like all these different things, it's so good with the Raptor you can synergize with.
I don't think it's totally dead. Like when I played the deck, I was still very happy whenever I'd hit a Loot Hoarder with it. Like it's still a 3-mana 3/4. You could curve from a Loot Hoarder. I don't know if there's much else in terms of Death Rattles before it. Like sometimes you siphon like a Death Rattle from a Leper Gnome. That's not really the card you want in that deck. So it gets a bit tricky. But I don't know. It is a very powerful card if you can get it off one of the late game Death Rattles, like Sylvanas, like maybe Sneeds. I'd be totally surprised to see the deck. But if someone did bring the deck, I wouldn't be surprised to see it win, because we've seen a lot of the slow-paced, kind of like grindy battles. We saw just how valuable a Death Rattle from a Sylvanas was in one of the games already. So it's a totally different game. Surprises are going to happen.
Certainly. And, I don't think we'll see much surprises from the Shaman and Druid. These were the 2 classes that I think we predicted to see the most, because they lose the least out of any of these decks. So that's not going to be surprising. But if both these guys come to the conclusion that Miracle Rogue is good, that's pretty cool. And it's because, Lotheb's gone. That really messes things up, and for the Rogue at least. You can usually block them with spells. But it is also interesting because I know Orange is like a really big Miracle player, but StrifeCro was never really that big into it. I think he just played Miracle because it was really strong back then in the day.
Yeah, everyone did.
Yeah, everyone did. And I know StrifeCro has specifically said that he doesn't like combo decks in general. He really likes big control decks like his Grinder Mage or other weird stuff like that. Because when he played Patron, when he played Miracle, and even to a certain extent the Combo Druid, he just doesn't like the fact that the game can end in one turn with like 25 damage. And he's like a particularly outspoken person about that. So it'd be surprising to see that like he's like, I'm gonna go back to Miracle as a default thing. But who knows? Maybe it's good.
I think StrifeCro is actually one of like the last pro players to take upon learning how to play Patron Warrior. I think like after Patron Warrior dominated the entire game for like 4 months, StrifeCro's like, I guess I'll learn to play this thing. Like up until then, he was beating patrons with like Murloc Knights and stuff, from what I remember.
Yeah, mid-range stuff. So, I mean, that's like his favorite deck. I think he told me mid-range Paladin was his favorite deck in Hearthstone history, or something like that. Like he really loved the Quartermaster element of it. But then, as cards started making mid-range and eventually Secret Paladin really dominant, that eventually shifted. I don't actually know what his go-to decks are these days.
Yeah, well, I think they're pretty standard. Yeah, even then, I don't know. I think in the tournament format, in the regular tournament format, things have been very one-dimensional for just about everybody. Where a lot of just the powerful ladder decks seem to see a lot of play. That's why I'm so excited about some of the changes that are coming up in the game.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, if there's anything that we've seen, it's like there's definitely some tools here that are improving that are not really commonly seen in the metagame right now. So it's definitely going to shake up a little bit. However, we can definitely see that there's some noticeable holes in some classes and overwhelming forces in others. No pun intended, from the Druid and the Shaman. Elemental Destruction is actually a pretty big deal in the Shaman mirror, because one of the things that you can just lose straight up is if you have no answer to board and your opponent just has like enough damage dealt to the face where they can burn you out. The most important thing that you can really do is have plays turn 1 in this matchup, and both of them do. So it's already shaping up to be a very quick game here.
Yeah, that Tunnel Trog is going to be it, though, isn't it? That's going to go unchecked.
And this is Orange's Tunnel Trog, so he can definitely go super far. I like this to keep Feral Spirits as a potential threat, and if your opponent removes it, then you can just play Totem Golem as if nothing ever happened. And then all of a sudden, Tunnel Trog is going to be super, super strong. You also have Leopard Gnome to fill out a 1-mana slot on turn 3.
Yeah.
So it feels like you can follow line.
I think in this matchup you probably have to use Lava Burst on a minion.
Yeah, it actually does happen once in a while. You're not wrong.
So would you consider Lava Burst here? Because it accomplishes basically the same thing as the Feral Spirits, but I feel like the Feral Spirits are much better later on.
Yeah, Feral Spirits actually does have use later on as well, like you said, primarily because you can stop Doomhammer from having a large effect, assuming you can do something like Elemental Destruction, Feral Spirits, and then even like Lava Shock immediately afterwards, so that way you have Mana Crystals. And sometimes the game ends up dragging out that way, but a lot of times it does end up becoming about snowballing the board. So Orange kind of does an immediate pivot on their strategy. He keeps his options open, but it's one of those questions of, the longer you keep the coin, the less of an impact it has. So he has to be very mindful that he has to kind of squeeze it in eventually.
He didn't play Leopard Gnome, though, so what do you think he might be planning next turn?
Next turn he has 4 mana.
Well, 3 and the coin gives him 4 if he needs.
Right, so he has access to up to 4 mana.
Yeah, but he didn't coin out the Leopard Gnome, and usually you'd coin out the Leopard Gnome 1 turn earlier if you were going to coin it out 1 turn later. So I guess.
Oh,
Oh,
wait,
he's overloaded. Oh, he's overloaded. Oh, so
Okay,
he's just
so that's
planning on
why
playing a
he's
3-drop.
just
Yeah,
kicked
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That was
We couldn't see
okay.
the mana crystal bar, Crypt. That's our excuse.
Yep. I think Lava Shock first, and then coining that could lead to better results. But you would have to Lava Shock first if you want to coin out 2 cards here. It might not be worth it, though. It's probably not worth it.
What's the upside of doing that? Like, the 50-50 means that your Trog dies, but you can still get 2 damage in with Flame Juggler. Although right now, the health counts are so high that it kind of doesn't matter about how much damage you've dealt. Oh my god. Well, that's really nice. Like, sniping a minion is so big, because board control is what really dictates this. Think about the early stages of Hunter versus Hunter, or even Zoo versus Zoo, and how much of an impact those early boards determine the rest of the game. Because then, like usual, one person who's lower on the health has to do the trading, and one person who's ahead can just keep hitting the face.
All right. Well, here I think you're gonna go with the Sir Finley into the Charger. Just gotta play as much stuff as you can to clean up the board as best you can before the Doomhammer. Oh, life tap.
There is a case for the Priest Hero Power. Yeah, I was about to say, like, I think the Priest Hero Power is, like, legitimate because not only will it put you outside of range of potential burn, you also can control the board a little bit better. So it's not the worst, but it is something to consider the life tap if you're running out of cards as well. I think he feels like he has enough damage because of Doomhammer, though. Like, one of the things that you're worried about is running out of damage in this matchup if you just played too much about the board. Oh, man. That Feral Spirits, though, we were saying about how good it can be against things like Doomhammer, and it's just such a wrench into things.
You still got to go for the Doomhammer, I believe. I mean, if you don't do the if you don't do the Doomhammer, it's hopeless. It's honestly hopeless.
I think you're right because, well, you can also play Knife Juggler and Arcane Golem, but...
Yeah, but the best case of that is the same thing as having the Doomhammer, and you'd also much rather have the Doomhammer develop for the next turn.
It's true. The only reason why I say that is because you're overloaded on your mana crystals, and you might not be able to get those cards out later on, but I think you're not in a position where you can pick and choose what you want from that. So this is, let's see, 7, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 damage right now available. He's just going to slowly and pick apart the board and just use Lava Burst. And right now, it's like, as the Shaman player on StrifeCro side, you have to like Arcane Golem into the into the Tunnel Trog just to survive.
Yep. And you're at 4.
Effectively 4, but I mean that's where the Priest Hero Power gives you some float. But the average draw from Shaman, at least the way people estimated it before, the average damage drawn was like, if you round it up, it's like 3. Otherwise it's like 2 point something. So it's like, even if you have Priest Hero Power, on average you're gonna get out damaged by the cards that you draw.
Is it gonna happen? No.
Oh, very high chance.
Probably.
Well, no crackle though.
Nope. And no! Whoa, it didn't happen.
Well, he has enough. Oh wait, he only has 5 mana next turn. Oh wait, hold on. Is there a chance for this to actually happen, man? You use Rockbiter now, right? Just in case they have another Feral Spirit? Or would you rather keep it because they might have Feral Spirit? I don't know. I don't think you're in a position to choose.
You're not beating Feral Spirit, so...
Yeah.
I think you're saving Rockbiter just for the fun surprise.
Very fun. Fun in quotation marks. Oh, he had 6 mana. That's more than enough. I apologize. I don't know why I counted 5 mana. It's because the 7, turn 7. That's more than enough to kill it. So, wrapping up game number 1 here. Very fast and furious. As looks like we're going to see if whether or not who can get the better end of like the Rogue matchups. Where does Rogue really fit here? Is there like one matchup that immediately stands out to you as being a good for them at all, or it just feels like their best chance is literally winning the mirror?
I think all three of these decks pair close to 50% against one another. I think it's just based on some of the tech choices. Like we've seen Harrison in some rogue decks, so Harrison's gonna like obliterate the other shaman or the other rogue, for instance. In most cases, it's really hard to tell. I think Orange does have the experience with the rogue as opposed to StrifeCro. I think Orange was a very well-known actual rogue player when he started in the competitive scene. StrifeCro is, I think, much better or much more well-known as a Druid player. But yeah, often playing Druid, the decisions are made for you. So it's perhaps a little bit less of an impact. We will see the Druid versus the Shaman here. StrifeCro sends the Shaman out once again. This matchup has also been pretty close. We've seen it won by both classes. But I feel like with this opener, the Druid has a pretty big edge. Like that opener is just nuts.
Yeah, it looks really powerful. Because you have so many options early on, and you can follow your curve, which is like the really big thing. I like it. Living Roots just for board control. StrifeCro's gonna go back and just play the board. What Druid always struggled with in the past was early game plays. But that's what Living Roots and Innervate, Darnassus Aspirant, Wild Growth. Now there's so many options. Gives you a lot of abilities to have early game plays.
You go with a combatant here?
Probably. Just because the combatant gives you so much board presence with the hero power threat. And at worst, your opponent trades with the Totem Golem because you can't crackle it. And this is kind of a situation where Crackle is pretty good.
He can actually Flame Shock and then Rock Biter.
Oh, yeah. Lava Shock, Rock Biter
is Lava Shock. I always call it Flame Shock.
It does the same thing. It burns people, so... Yeah. Same difference. No worries, Crip.
That's a lot of cards to invest, though, but he did get innervated, so...
It's 2 cards for 2 cards.
Yeah, it might be a reasonable decision here.
Yeah, what I like about it is that the 3/4 can then only get answered by Wrath or
Savage-Roar.
Oh yeah, Savage-Roar is also, but that's also like a big sacrifice on the Druid side because Savage-Roar is the way that Druid would race the Shaman. One of the things that you have to always be concerned about is if you're trying to stave off the pressure from aggro, how can you flip the switch and kill them? Because the longer the game stalls out, you're still giving them chance to draw into a Lava Burst or a Doomhammer to win the game. Face!
Wow. Face. Man, that play is right out of Twitch chat.
I mean, no, if you play a new limited format in Standard, some of the old principles from Hearthstone still apply here.
That's a good card. Because you're probably going to have to... Flame Shock, right? Did I get it right? I think it
Let's just call it what it really is, Flava Shock.
Flava Shock, alright, we're good.
Oh, Doomhammer right on the curve here, so that way he can unload his, or unlock his overloaded crystals, excuse me. Start going to town, and he has, well, hypothetically, if he could hit every turn with Doomhammer with this Rock Biter, he would have 20... he'd have 27 damage or so.
Turn 4 Emperor is a pretty big deal.
Man.
You know it's only 2 cards though. Oh, okay, you just go for it. Forget it. I mean, if he was aggressive enough to go face with the Totem Golem on turn 3, he's aggressive enough to go face from this point on in the game.
17. You put in at 17 right now. Next turn, he has access to 4 mana, so he can Lava Burst and Rock Biter for 15. And then he could Lava Burst past the taunt. But this is also coming up on the turns where maybe his opponent taunts. Can he also die if he takes 2 damage hits, or 2 turns of hits from the opposing side with a Savage-Roar or something? 8.
There's just the other side, like... Okay, let's say you Lava Burst here. If you Lava Burst here, you can't play Doomhammer next turn. So you're Doomhammering on turn 7, and that is too late.
It's a 3-turn lethal, and Druid would be on.
I'm surprised by that. Man, StrifeCro's making a ton of plays I would not have made. I'd be so happy to see him win here. Get that learning experience.
Yeah. Oh, not a bad draw at all. You can now Wrath for 2, cycle, and be able to put pressure back on. Big moves here for Orange, and StrifeCro's really safe play. aka when SafeCro comes out. Oh my god. Wow, that's a lot. If you play Horse Rider and hit face, and then you have an opportunity to Doomhammer, you can definitely set up a 3-turn lethal here. But he also had a 3-turn lethal the turn before, and even if his opponent hit face twice with Savage Roar, he'd still be alive. So this is still a pretty interesting line in my opinion from StrifeCro, where he played really safe. I think he's just thinking the threat of Emperor is too high. And maybe his thought was he had enough damage anyways to outlast him because his opponent used 2 Innervates, and he still didn't have like a really big hand size. So in some ways, I think StrifeCro is counting if he can out damage his opponent.
All right. Well, it looks like Orange is trying to race here. Next turn, he will absolutely have lethal with the Savage Roar. So now it's on StrifeCro yet again to make a play.
Let's see.
10 mana lethal.
10 mana lethal. Yeah, if only he had the opportunity to extend his mana crystals right now. If he ends up playing removal with the Lava Burst, that gives him... Oh, he's going to just use the Doomhammers? Okay. So now he chooses to go Doomhammer time. It says, look, if you have it, you have it.
Suicide.
There's no way he uses 8 damage to clear 2 minions. Oh man, this is the stuff made of nightmares. Where it's like, oh my god, Doomhammer 2 Rock Biters, but it's still gonna be enough here.
Pit Snake!
The Pit Snake dream! That's it.
Alright.
Game 2-0 for Orange, and StrifeCro's line did not pay off at all here. Close, but no cigar.
Would he have had it with the Rock Fighter draw on the following turn? I think the Druid is at 21. I think it would have been 1-off lethal. Yeah. I think StrifeCro is going to have a really hard time winning that game, regardless of how he sequenced his decisions. Yeah,
Druid with 2 Innervates early on, with Living Roots on turn 1. Still pretty tough. And that's ultimately why people keep saying Druid is still going to survive. It's just got many options.
All right, Assassin's Blade from Orange. Well, that is the first time we've seen that card. It is considered to be a pretty good card, but I feel like it's a card that gets amplified so much if you have oil, which, well, let's just say would be a surprise. As surprising as
that would be a surprise. Yeah, not as much as Crush, but it's certainly a really good way to synergize your deck. I assume that to take an obscure card here, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a card like Goblin Auto Barber. That was actually a card that was included with Assassin's Blade back when you wanted to make a very burst-heavy oil rogue. And you had a lot of flexibility with that card early on to remove things when Zoo was getting really strong. So it's not completely out of the question to see a card like that. But I would expect to see Deadly Poison and those kinds of cards.
Auto Barber is GVG though. We won't see it here.
Oh crap, you're right. What the hell am I talking about? It is GVG.
It's gonna take some getting used to, man.
I was trying to be really smart, man, and I
tried to save you. You ignored my save, bro.
Oh, I couldn't hear you. Damn. Well, right. I'm just gonna AFK and you cast this one, alright?
No, I think you're good. It's looking like a pretty decent rogue game here, despite the crazy burst that the shaman obviously has coming. Actually, I think this is maybe a pretty decent chance to lava burst. Because if you overload now, you overload turn 4, which is fine. You just don't want to overload on turn 4. And you can consider Lava Burst face too if you want. It's a total of 8. You're almost there.
Yeah, with the Doomhammer and the Rock Biters. It's 14 over 2 turns, which, I mean, realistically, you're probably going to have 2 turns to use it here. But, you know, the Farseers here are pretty clutch, ultimately.
Yeah, let's talk about Farseer. Like, Farseer is one of those cards when the game came out, it was one of the most non-impressive cards. Like, man, this card sucks in Constructed, it sucks in Arena. But decks just got more and more aggressive, and heals are just not being released. Like, if you compare Anti-Killbot to Farseer, yeah, it heals for more, but Farseer is a 3/3 body, 4/3 with a targeted heal effect, you know? It's so good, but it's mostly so good because heals are just so scarce, which, you know, might be something we can expect out of the new expansion. I think the game would be a bit more interesting if we had a few more Farseer-like cards.
Yeah, most of the heals. I mean, there were a couple of heals that were released, Healing Wave, that can target. But you're right. There's not many heals. It's usually just taunts, and I think that's because Blizzard generally favors more minion interaction than spells. So that's kind of the line that they take there. Speaking of taking specific lines, Orange is just, or is the StrifeCro, excuse me, he's just going to go to the face with the Doomhammer. He's got more direct damage. Arcane Golem is also an interesting choice for the Shaman because you lose Crackle. So if you feel like you can make up that damage with Arcane Golem, which costs a little bit more than a Crackle because Crackle overloads 1.
These are the Blade Flurry here?
Lose too much.
Okay.
I am ready to learn.
All right. A pretty aggressive Blade Flurry. I think playing the Azure Drake wasn't too bad either, because if you draw a backstab, you're probably just going to win, and you're in a pretty dire spot already. So
4, 7, 11, 13 damage is available this turn. So,
yeah,
man, if only that was Crackle, you could roll for lethal. I guess you can just hit the face with Doom Hammers and then play Juggler with a hero power.
I like that.
The reason being is you still should be able to play out all your stuff. If you really feel like it, you can even play Lava Shock, so that way you have more access to mana the following turn of whatever you draw. Because you'll end up using 6 mana anyways with the cards, and you have 7, so you have an opportunity to pick up like Lava Burst.
It's just that if you totem and you get a spell damage, I don't think the rogue will kill it. I think the rogue has the raise to win.
That's also fair too. No, I'm saying you can Lava Shock first, Light Knife Juggler and Hero Power, because then you give opportunity to draw into more stuff to play, you know? Because you have 6 mana worth of stuff in your hand, and you have 7, so most likely the only thing you can draw is a Rock Biter. But if you pick Lava Burst up, for example, you can squeeze it in. Phantom Knives with the Farseer, pretty much exactly the only thing you can do here. And you know there
might be
is
just enough though. Yeah, he's just a little bit out of range again. And
sure for it. Isn't
no,
that exact lethal?
That's lethal. Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it is. Just because the he's not blocked by overload. 4, 8.
It's
10.
9+4. No, it's definitely it. It's definitely it. He's got it. StrifeCro's going to get that point on the board, and I mean it's looking a bit grim right now for StrifeCro still. He still has to win 2 more against this Rogue deck, and we have seen Miracle Rogue perform very well so far in the tournament. But what I'm most excited about is seeing what StrifeCro has brought for his own Rogue deck.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of the interesting things. You know, we brought up at the very beginning of the series, you know, how likely is it that the best matchup Rogue has in this series is the Mirror, because it feels like it's going to get bullied a little bit by the Druid, because as the combo deck, you're completely dependent on drawing like the Gadget Sands and making sure that you get the right cards, especially if Druid gets the coin.
Sure, but all these slow decks are going to get like blown out at the same time. Like what we saw with Priest was savage. And it's probably gonna be very similar with some of the other slow decks. Like I don't think Warrior can do too much against Miracle Rogue. Like Warriors is a lot slower because it can't rely on bouncing back anymore. It has to gradually win. Oh my god, that hand.
I'm waiting for the Emperor draw.
I hope StrifeCro actually draws a card. Oh, that's not the card I was hoping he would draw.
I think he queued the wrong deck. It was featured on the front of our entire tournament graphic screen. That
it's a notable card. That
Belcher is a notable exclusion. Well, surely StrifeCro realizes too.
Okay.
But still, the play would be to innervate the Sludge Belcher followed by Wild Growth. If we were to talk about the lines here.
No, I would just love to see innervate Belcher to just be the ultimate like WTF moment.
Yeah. I mean, this is something completely understandable if StrifeCro queued up the wrong list. However, it's up to the rulings of the admins to see what happens because there's definitely been controversy there. And if so, that would, if like say for example, StrifeCro got the game loss, that would mean the series is over and we move on to the winners round 2. We'll find out in just a second.
I don't think that would warrant it. I think it'd be okay to let him try again. I mean, there was really no harm done then, and he just have to play with his actual Druid list the second time.
Yeah, I think the caveat too to that is StrifeCro had a way better start than Orange as well, so he has potential to get worse start to that. Right? He had the innervate play with the Wild Growth into something.
Yeah, I think it could matter if Orange had more than one deck, because StrifeCro would know what he's queuing against and he would mulligan appropriately. But Orange only has one deck. I literally see no reason to disqualify StrifeCro for picking the wrong deck in this specific scenario. Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we're getting information. Just saying it was an honest mistake, and I don't really see I don't see that we're doing any kind of punishment. So it's just a straight up regame. So we're gonna try to queue up again. But I think StrifeCro has to play Druid. He can't just switch to Rogue here.
Right. That I think with that requirement, it's just an honest mistake and it's totally fair. Yeah. So we'll probably see a little bit of that. If only, we would have a system to see which decks qualify for the standard format in the future.
I'm inclined to agree, Mr. Morrison.
Okay, here we go. The actual Druid list includes Cenarius, apparently. That used to be a really good card at 8 mana. At 9 mana, it's seen limited play.
Well, it's still a card that has a lot of value if you have just in terms of staying alive sometimes, or even being able to buff an existing board. But we haven't seen this card in such a long time. It's just kind of like a throwback. Honestly, it's pretty sweet. I like having it if you're playing a very defensive ramp style Druid, which could be the case here. Maybe StrifeCro feels like he plays one combo and he's playing ramp style Druid. That kind of made a comeback through guys like Deng Shu. It was in vogue for about a week and a half. Nowadays, I think people are going back to the mid-range Druid, but for a while, Deng Shu made a pretty good run with that. So it wouldn't be completely unheard of to see that kind of style return.
We also see MC Tech from StrifeCro's Druid. A lot of just cool, cute cards. Not so sure about the big game though. I think the big game is a bit phased out in this game. Like, have we actually seen any minions that get big gamed besides an enraged Grommash in the whole tournament so far?
Right. I mean, you mentioned that cool Taskmaster has the chance of activating it.
Yeah, I think it's okay in Warrior. Like, I play Warrior with double BGH, double Cruel Task, and I mean it works all the time. Like nothing to do with Dr. Boom.
I mean, there also are a few other targets. The people playing dragons, like the late game dragons, Nefarian, Onyxia.
Oh, that's true. We saw one of those, and we saw one of the Onyxias from Kibler.
Yeah. So I wouldn't put it completely useless, but a lot of times you just play it in Jungle Panther mode and try to get some tempo onto the board.
The non-stealth, non-beast Jungle Panther.
Yeah, something like that. Oh man, that's one of the worst results out of the mounted raptor. I think the only thing worse than that is probably just like zero attack minion of some sort. Wait,
Yeah,
is
but
zero attack one mana minion? Actually, I don't think so. The only zero attack minions are like shield. Oh, shield bearer is 1 mana, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty good against
shield bearer is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there aren't many. There's like Lightwell on 2 mana. I think shield bearer is the only one on 1 mana.
Hmm. Well, you have the Tomb Pillager here, another underrated card that flew under the radar for League of Explorers. When people started playing with it, getting the benefit off of hitting something a little bit earlier, like even picking up Thorson and coining out the Thorson, helping you reduce your entire hand. Kind of stuff's awesome.
I don't think you can
Orange
play it
here
here.
also is thinking about other stuff too. What were you saying, Crip?
I don't think you can play the Pillager. If you play the Pillager, you just lose versus swipe, right? Just gone.
So
Like spell
many
damage swipe,
options.
just clears, easy peasy.
Mm-hmm. So then, what do you want to do then?
Like if you play the Tomb Pillager, you have to double attack into the Drake, which also feels really bad. I think you might have to Blade Flurry for 1.
You're gonna trade Deadly Poison. The Deadly Poison's a little interesting because 1 attack weapon plus is the same as the 3 attack, but I guess he wanted to be mana efficient because next turn he wants to threaten a flurry with something.
We have the option to double Keeper here if you really want.
I mean, Keeper Hero Power is, I think, just as good, probably.
Is it? Double Keeper's a bit more tempo and they don't die to Blade Flurry.
Yeah, but there actually is value to keeping an Innervate. You know, you always have this opportunity to like double Savage Roar if your deck calls for it, or you know, like you're like if you have something like ability to grab tempo with the Innervate later on. Versus, I don't think the second Keeper of the Grove is entirely that useful right now. Plus, you know that you might need to silence something if it ends up becoming a big problem. Van Cleef, for example, is one of them. I don't think you want to double Keeper Dub that quickly.
Oh man, every piece of ramp, like everything. But like so few substance cards being drawn from StrifeCro's deck.
Well, I mean, Thorson's still a 5/5. It's ramp plus a reasonable sized minion. The only thing is, would you trade a lot of your board away? You know, even giving up Innervate to do it. I'm not sure.
I think you could innervate a MC Tech, but it's also pretty nice against Violet Teacher in some cases.
Yeah, but I think you want to protect the 5/5 because it's by far the strongest minion onto your board. So you probably would innervate the hero power out. Because
Really?
the Thorson has the ability to single-handedly bring you back into relevance. Because right now your hand's very weak.
I think you can. Yeah, if you want to clear, why don't you just sack your whole board? You don't have to hero power for that.
So he feels like he'd rather just develop with clean mana efficiency, loading up similar power onto the board. But this plays slightly into Blade Flurry if his opponent had Thanos or a Drake, because he knows his opponent has coin, so a Drake, coin, Flurry would clear the board. But I think he's okay with that.
The play might be like a Flurry, Eviscerate,
So many
Coin.
options.
Cleave? Or is he going Sap, Eviscerate, Coin, Cleave? And that's an 8/8 Cleave that gets big game.
Big game hunter.
Oh god! Wow, that turned out really well for StrifeCro.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my!
10 mana with the Innervate allows him to
Right
big
after
game
getting
hunter.
sapped, too.
Oh jeez.
That's insane.
Uproot.
Not-
Oh. Well, Rogue's not gonna run big game hunter. He just used Eviscerate and Sap.
Yeah, but he still has a weapon.
Rude. Oh, yeah. He still has the dagger. You're right. He could have flurried for it. But, oh man, here we go. So the best card he could pick up is like Fan of Knives, and then get Conceal. Oh, okay. Another chance for Conceal. Ooh, awkward.
Yeah,
Drake here, not too bad.
Okay, you have 7 on the board. I don't think that the Drake can't really give you lethal in any meaningful way.
Yeah, but I guess what I was thinking was Drake gives you opportunity to dig deeper in your deck for something else. But I think either way, he's in a good spot. Thorson's slightly better stats, and you can also squeeze in a Force of Nature or something if you draw it with the next turn. Drake needs to pick up something huge here.
The Blade Flurry keeps him alive. I think he has the Blade Flurry. I think that's better than the Drake. Like, what is the Drake gonna pull?
Well, I mean, this is also like a play to consider, like, what's the winning play, but, I was thinking at this point, you probably have to just hope for something, but I think he's just banking on the fact that Druid has no gas here.
That's plenty of gas.
That's tons. I mean, that's, he just filled up with diesel just now. It's pretty much as it gets.
I don't see how one Azure Drake is going to bring him back in this game. The Druid has 20 HP. It's a very long time. Eviscerate is, it saves you from losing.
Okay.
Okay, Sap and Eviscerate. Take back tempo completely.
But this is like the struggle of Rogue. He's going to have to pick up Sprint, but he doesn't have Sprint. He has Gadget Sands.
1 damage off lethal.
No.
Oh, Wrath Face. What? Wrath Face.
Nice. He's just going to Wrath for 1, Savage Roar. Oh, okay. Here we go. Swipe. Perfect.
Yeah. Now, the Rogue has to basically win this turn, so good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Death Wing.
Oh, preparation.
Alright, so we were mentioning Crip again. What is the Rogue going to have to win to be the deciding factor in the series?
It is going to be Rogue this time.
It's Rogue versus Rogue. And StrifeCro has a decisive advantage in knowing a lot of Orange's deck. He knows that it's the Gadget Sand version. He sees Violet Teachers. I mean, StrifeCro's keeping his Rogue deck completely concealed. What if StrifeCro decides to play an aggro Rogue?
You're back. I always do.
Okay.
Well, I guess not.
Not too much of a surprise yet. I mean, we don't know. I think you'd run Van Cleef in every Rogue deck now.
I wouldn't run it in like a backspace aggro Rogue though. But there was this time, guys, in the metagame where the Miracle Rogue was such a prominent force that you would run a Miracle Rogue killer deck that involved you having like the Cold Bloods on Argent Squires and Southsea deckhands so that you could kill Miracle before they draw too many cards.
Yeah.
And that was like a huge, like an 80% win rate against that deck because you just designed to kill it. Doesn't look like it's that case at all. It looks like
a very similar deck.
Additional decks.
Oh, maybe not. Sprint's a little bit strange.
Sprint is reminiscent of Oil Rogue.
Yeah. Sprint does not make the Miracle list. Sprint is strictly an oil.
And if it is, then where's the oil, bro? Is StrifeCro queuing up the wrong deck again? I don't know, Crip.
Well, what if he just thinks Deadly Poison's oily enough?
That could be a possibility as well. But without oil, you lose a lot of the range of which what makes Oil Rogue a threat in the first place.
Yeah.
Unless StrifeCro, the only way you can legitimately get oil is to burgle your opponent and get
yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised that StrifeCro chose to attack with the dagger and not develop Farseer, but now he's preemptively attacking 3-drop.
He's threatening the same damage on the board. Oh, 1 less because if you save the weapon, but that's still quite good.
Yeah, but if he developed like the 3-drop, your opponent has to answer it with like backstab, and then even then if he didn't, you still have the ability to equip the dagger now. And how do you respond to this Violet Teacher immediately without giving up Eviscerate?
You don't have to respond immediately. You have a Blade Flurry now. And I think
you didn't know that, Crip.
Yeah.
Going into this turn.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're right. I mean, I think his options weren't great, and he just took an option that kind of worked, and he drew out well enough that it doesn't really matter anymore.
Okay. I mean, it's completely it's fair. I mean, he had one of these things where Farseer does have good tempo options. If you're not like if you're playing it just as a vanilla 3/3 minion, no different than Mind Control Tech on turn 3, then maybe he feels like he needs to get stronger value off these cards, and then he can try to climb back into the mid game. Or if he feels like he needs to use some of these cards because he knows it's Miracle Rogue and he has to play a little bit differently. One thing for sure though is like if you know that your opponent has like the Gadget's Hand Conceal deck, you have to be able to kill it off the moment they drop it and pass the turn. You don't want to like give up this weapon if you don't have to, because then you can always threaten a Flurry Clear with something.
Looks like he's going to use an Eviscerate. I wonder if he's going to use a Conceal as well. I probably would not do that, but...
There's merit to it, but I think you have such good tools right now that you're okay not doing it. It also gets even much better next turn.
Well,
And
this is...
like every turn you keep Violet Teacher on the board, it gets increasingly better with it. So.
Yeah, this is a pretty decent turn for the Blade Flurry action. You can curve out with the Farseer or make a new weapon.
Yeah, the Farseer is better onto the board. Your opponent does have a deadly Poison Dagger, but you know it just feels like StrifeCro is just slightly behind every single time. And he even has an extra coin, but he's gonna have to Drake and coin Eviscerate. Maybe that's why he felt comfortable from the beginning.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But it's like, as soon as you pick up a Gadget's Hand with 2 conceals, there's no answer to it. Backstab SI is pretty good. I guess you can backstab Fan of Knives to draw, and then SI.
Well, no, you would just Fan of Knives and SI, wouldn't you?
Oh, keep the backstab? Yeah, that's pretty reasonable as well. Actually, I kind of like that a little bit more. Because then you can keep the backstab for the extra card draw and even damage to a minion.
This guy's
but
toast.
then he doesn't. Then he has to give up his dagger, which he doesn't want to do. Sprint time, or would you develop the board?
Well, the board development wouldn't really be that strong. But sprint would just have to do with what's left in your deck, and that's a call that StrifeCro would have to make.
So the immediate thing that sticks out to me is that StrifeCro probably just plays a more board-centric, quote, oil rogue. Like, maybe he plays 2 shred... Oh, sorry, you can't play shred. You're taking the shredders out. So what do you replace it with? 2 Tomb Pillagers, 2 Violet Teachers. You're missing Lotheb. You're missing the Antique Healbot. Is he playing something really obscure that we're not really thinking about? I don't know, man. Rogue definitely has some interesting tools from expansions, but not exactly directly obvious of how you translate it.
Well, one thing we haven't seen is like the Shadow Step Charger abuse. So that could be... That is something that works with Sprint, I think, a little bit better, because you need more cards to combo, but your burst potential is higher.
Can't really board clear with that Fan of Knives and the Thanos because he doesn't have enough mana. Guess you sprint now. Yeah, I like the sprint here.
Another sprint. Well, there's some of the Charger abuse.
Maybe he's playing Sousy Coldbloods. That could be actually a thing too. Like we were mentioning earlier. Attack to the face, putting some pressure back on the opponent, really letting him keep the board. Because one of the things about Oil Rogue in the past was that if you ever leave up a minion, that's +3 damage potential that can come your way that you have to answer. But now, without the threat of the Tinker Sharp Sword Oil, maybe you can just leave minions floating a little bit more. So I like this adaptation of playstyle from StrifeCro.
Wow. That trade.
I mean, what does it say when your opponent attacks at the face and refuses a value trade?
I really thought that you'd go all out face and play conceal there because StrifeCro would need exactly spell damage, deadly poison, blade flurry, and he's already played deadly poison and blade flurry and 1 spell damage, so that would be like super unlikely. But yeah, I mean that's exactly what StrifeCro has, as it so happens. So as it turns out, Orange is actually doing very well.
Yeah, it's a very defensive play here, which ends up being okay. StrifeCro is also in a pretty good spot where he's gonna have a minion and Orange doesn't, and that's gonna ultimately mean that Orange is very far behind. He's just got things that synergize with other cards in the deck, but he needs those directly. Like everything right now doesn't do anything. He can flurry the Thanos down. That's basically it.
This use of coin and the fact that we've seen a second sprint already is very indicative that he is not running auctioneers.
So flurry and then just play Assassin's Blade and just start getting to work.
Yeah.
Why not? Assassin's Blade's 12 damage. Oh. Speaking of Assassin's Blades, I mean that's
StrifeCro's a lot better because he has the deadly poison.
Yeah, I like it. You can also squeeze in a prep sprint. Prep sprint is 4 mana, and that lets you to Assassin's Blade and deadly poison. I like it, and
Looks
that
good.
also gives you opportunity to potentially find lethal in the following turns, because Assassin's Blade is 15 damage over 2 turns with Flurry, and the Salsi gives you even more range here to finish the game. I mean, why not start with a weapon pre-oiled? That's probably the logic when you play Assassin's Blade.
It's a little better than just 1 oil.
Oh yeah, true. You get more durability, which is huge.
Alright, well, 2 more swings, and StrifeCro's gonna close out the gap that he needs.
So he's got 6 damage, and this is the pain that every Miracle Road player has felt at one time in their career. Is that lethal? That's 1 off.
Yep, 1 off.
You can fan for lethal. Fan of Knives gives you an opportunity to draw onto any other damage.
I think he's used both eviscerates, though. I don't know if there is any other damage left. I think with 2 sprints and an Azure Drake already gone, StrifeCro's deck is probably very light right now.
You could be right.
Pay attention, class.
He might have something though. We'll see. He's got 5 cards remaining. We have yet to see something like his own Van Cleef.
I'm ready to learn.
1 more damage does the trick, and it's just a sap. So I'd say you just go for some of the damage here.
I think Orange can definitely win this game. He also, I'm sure, has a fairly light deck. It's certainly not as light as StrifeCro. He hasn't sprinted at all. It's probably about 10 cards. But with 14, wow, that's a bit more than I thought. But he has a prep, 2 coins, and 2 1-mana spells. This is where magic can happen. This is where miracles take place.
He's got access to a ton of mana this turn.
Oh, he gets it!
God.
You gotta start now. You gotta go.
Cue the epic sax music, Crip.
Oh,
my
another
God.
prep! He's got his whole deck. Does he have lethal in his deck is now the question.
Thanos is like extra damage on the Blade Flurry. It's 7 damage right now. He just needs 8 more. And with Thanos with giving him potential range into things, he's gonna conceal again. Oh my goodness. 2 saps!
These are bad draws. These are bad draws. I think he just prepped into a prep, didn't he? Oh, no, that's when it just went off.
I don't know. He coined into the conceals. I think he's thinking about whether or not he wants to flurry now to get more damage in, because he has to spend his mana.
Keep drawing, yeah. Keep drawing. Oh no, it's going pretty badly here. Looks like he doesn't have it. He doesn't have any more damage, so he's gonna have to draw as if StrifeCro can't kill him next turn, but we know that's very far from the case.
No, he used team prepped into backstab! Ah! Oh, man. Orange really tried hard, but running out of time and running out of turns, that's going to wrap it up here.
Had he not prepped into backstab, he would have lost with a giant, enormous Van Cleef. Yeah.
Dude, he had access to 18 mana that turn. Like, I think 10 plus 2 coins plus 2 preps.
Yeah. That was like a 2020 Van Cleef. And would have died immediately after. But still, he would have had it. He would have done it. He would have built him. All right, but it is StrifeCro's last point. StrifeCro does advance to the winners round. Orange drops the losers round. As we mentioned earlier in the tournament, that the losers are going to be playing off stream. So that does mean Kibler will be playing Orange off stream, while we will be seeing the winners rounds coming right up. I think we're going to start straight from the top. So coming up next, I believe, will be Trump versus Tice, I think. And then it will be Forsen versus StrifeCro, followed by the decider matches, which, well, have yet to be decided.
That's right, that's right. We have some people playing the lower bracket as well. We'll update you when we come back. In the meantime, guys, we're going to take a quick break. I want to give a shout out to Geek Fuel as well as the Curse Network for being able to sponsor us at this event. Thanks for following along with us, and we're going to be back real soon with more action here at the Curse Trials.